Oh, this is what every Lexus needs. Oh, no way. The GS gets it. The RC gets it. Why doesn't the IS get it? Look at that. You can be like this if you want to. Like that. Oh! Hey guys, today we're here and reviewing these. The 2021 Lexus IS350 and the 2020 Lexus GS350. Now guys, welcome back to what is going to be an awesome video. The 2021 Lexus IS350 in the top of the range F-Sport that money can buy here in Australia. The only thing that we miss that every other country gets is the BBS wheels. Otherwise, everything else is on this, including that gorgeous Mark Levinson sound system. And that one there is the 2020 GS350 in the F-Sport with an enhancement pack as well here in Australia. So it's the top of the range for an F-Sport that money can buy. And today we're going to see which one should you buy if you're after a 3.5 litre V6 engine from a Lexus in a rear-wheel drive. Because even though the GS is now unfortunately going to be discontinued, it's still a pretty recent car. You can get some as late as 2020, and since we've just clicked over into 2021, they still got a lot of the bells and whistles. And today we're going to see if size doesn't matter, because that's the biggest difference between these two cars, the size, the proportions of these cars. If the size doesn't matter in the car that you're buying, which one should you buy? Which one is the more fun car if the size doesn't matter? And I know for most of you, you're gonna say size matters. Doesn't always. But anyways, guys, welcome back to what was an awesome episode. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, because this year we have some very cool videos coming out. Plenty more such as this one. So, guys, let's just get straight into it. Now, let's start off with the outsides. And both of these cars, they look, oh, so good. I absolutely love the styling of them. I love this color on both of these cars. Usually I would not have a color on a sedan, but these are just something really, really special. Look at that color. Look how much it suits the car. It's just, oh, sensational. Anyways, both of these cars have 19-inch wheels. They both have your daytime running lights and triple LED headlights. Now the GS is a little bit different because it still has those sort of like one headlamp and a second headlamp, which is really the previous generation for the IS and plenty of other cars. And now the Lexuses, they're all going to the traditional one headlamp. They're coming back. And of course, being a F-Sport, both of these cars have the checkered grille. Our GS is still shadow chrome colors for all the vents, whereas the IS has now gone to black instead of the shadow chrome colors. So it looks pretty smart either way you go. The only thing which does annoy me is that they have kept this chrome instead of taking that to shadow chrome, but that's rather minor. Now, over here you can see that the IS also has the front-facing camera. Now, also, all these vents are functional. These are all functional. Over here, there's a little flap here that goes through there. Even though this itself isn't functional, that there is, and that goes all the way back here. There you go. And the other little flap goes just over there. And for the GS as well, both have a large bonnet. And looking at the GS, as you can see, it is a much longer car. Awesome looking cars. The only thing which I don't particularly like on the GS is the alloy wheels on this. They look a little bit plain, not as sporty as such as the IS. Now, something you may not know on both the IS and the GS is that the wheels are staggered, meaning that they're both 19-inch wheels. However, these are 235s at the front and 265s at the rear to give you that little bit of extra traction, a little bit of extra grip. And it's the same thing here on the GS, 235s at the front and 265s at the rear to give you that same thing, extra traction when you're going around the corner on these awesome rear-wheel drive cars. Now, looking at them from the back, I absolutely love what they've done with the IS. It just looks so freaking good. And and you know what, when I was looking at the photos and the videos of it before they released it, and I saw this one straight tail line, I'm like, oh no, here we go, they're copying all the Europeans and all the rest of it. But my goodness, does it look good. They've really done it real smart. And now looking at the back of the GS, this has a very dated look, almost very dated look, with the chrome tail lights and the chrome strip in the rear. And the one thing I don't like about the GS is that it's got these awesome molds, but however the exhaust is all the way in there, if you can see that. So it's not the actual exhaust. Whereas with the IS, that is the exhaust coming straight out, so it looks pretty smart. Now, the one thing I don't like about the IS is that they've tried to make a little diffuser here, but it's far from a diffuser. It's, well, it's just for looks. Whereas with the GS, the diffuser is actually a little bit more prominent. It's actually, I'm sure that would probably do something. Maybe not the IS's one, but let's have a talk about dimensions, because we already mentioned that the GS is actually bigger, but it's only about 17 centimeters bigger, which for our American friends is about 7 inches longer, and width-wise it's only about 3 centimeters wider, so it's actually not that much bigger. Now the wheelbase, so meaning from wheel to wheel, the GS is 5 centimeters longer. The IS sits at 2800 millimeters and the GS sits at 2850. So the difference is actually not that massive, but when you do drive it, the GS does definitely feel like a much larger car, even though it really isn't. And the thing I love most about the IS rear end is how it just comes in for the boot, and it just comes in like this, and then it keeps going straight back out. So it looks awesome. Makes the rear end, the wheel arches, really accentuated. Makes it look really quite bulky on the rear end. Can you see that? It's just sticking straight out. Oh, it looks awesome. And both of the cars, of course, have a little lip spoiler. On the IS, they've done it on all black, whereas with the GS, they have color matched it to suit the car. Now, also on the IS, you'll also notice that it has a much more coupe-esque type finish, so it's got a real sloping headline, which is a little bit of a problem in the IS, and I'll show you why. Whereas with the GS, it does have this sloping finish, but it's a lot higher on that back door, which is a massive plus. So I'm seeing the back of the IS now, and as you can see, it's fairly upright because that's the seating position. But if you have a look here, like, there is zero headspace in case anyone was taller, and I'm not the tallest chap in the room. I'm only 5'11". So this here, and like, look, if I lean back, it's touching the ceiling. Like, I have to sit with my head forward, and if I lean back, it's touching, which is really inconvenient for most people. And in terms of legroom, I have a little bit of legroom here, and that seat is really where you'd have it for a passenger. So that is a big difference between the IS and the GS, because now we are in the back of the GS, and straight away you can see plenty of headspace and plenty of room to get really comfortable. And the seat is, I'm not going to say as upright in the IS, but not much more, but you definitely have a lot more space in here, not only for your headroom, but also check out your leg room. Look at that. You can have basketballers in here and they'll be comfortable. That's awesome. Now, other stuff in the GS which the IS doesn't have is a little ashtray, but it's an ashtray which says no ash. So I'm just really curious what that's for. Like, is that just to make it look like an ashtray? I don't know. Of course, it has air vents in the back, as is the IS, and little pockets here to put all your goodies. In the IS, sitting in the middle is almost impossible. Here in the GS, it's not that much better. Like, I'm sitting here, and because this hump in the middle, you are sitting very high up, and as I mentioned, I am not a tall gentleman, but that is That is like, I sit either like this, I can't sit like that, or I sit like this, because otherwise I'm just rubbing my little bald head against the roof lining, and it's very uncomfortable. But at least on the outsides, it is a more of a business class finish, so plenty of space in the back. Now let's have a look at the front, and both cars have keyless entry and keyless start as standard. Now having a look here in the front, the IS, I know a lot of you are going to say, oh yes, this IS interior has been the same for years. You know what? I like it. I actually really like it. And these seats, they are just so comfortable and so supportive. And unlike a lot of other cars which have these sports style seats, these are still fairly soft. Like, can you see that? They're still fairly soft, so it's not as if you're going to be driving this car every day and you're going to get sick of it. No, because it's still a soft interior, and even these side bolsters here, if you're a larger person, you can still sit in them rather comfortably. But if we have a look here at the front, the IS has its digital display, of course, digital cockpit view, LFA inspired. It has a nice big 10.3-inch touchscreen there, which has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto now, so that's real cool. Your dual zone climate control features there, heated and ventilated seats, and of course your different driving sports modes, your Eco, Normal, Sports, Sports Plus, your traction control off, snow, and your auto hold button and your touchpad in case you don't want to use the touch screen. So everything's there. Inside here is your USB ports and a rather small area just to hold your stuff in. As you can see, there's no wireless charger, so that's the biggest downfall, is that the Lexus has not yet produced space for a wireless charger. Now, this being the top of the range, does have a sunroof. That part is manually operated, otherwise it's a fully electric sunroof. And also you do get a rear blind, so by pressing that button there, the rear blind will come up and down. Look at that. Now having a look at the interior, as I mentioned, keyless entry and keyless start, but the GS has keyless entry from the back as well, so you can just open the back door and even lock it from the back door. But having a look at the inside, it is real different to the IS, and it is obviously very dated because the GS has been the same for many a years. Put in perspective, it still has the little mouse instead of the little touchpad for the screen in front of you. Even though it is 12 inches, it is very different, very dated, and doesn't have Apple CarPlay. But anyways, having a look at the center, we've got, of course, our radio controls, our dual zone climate controls. We can even adjust the air to go to the front and not the back, to make it a little bit more efficient if no one's seeing in the back. Our heated and air conditioned seats. We have our cup holders here, the little mouse, and of course our different drive mode selections, which is the same as the IS. And our snow button here. No auto hold button because it does have the electric handbrake, but no auto hold button. And inside here we have a massive storage compartment with all of our USBs, and again, no wireless phone charger, which is a little bit of a letdown. Same thing, we have our rear sunshade, which brings that sunshade up. Real business class finish. And of course our sunroof, which is very much the same size as the IS. Now, the one noticeable difference with the GS is that it does have a heads-up display. The dash is a little bit different, whereas it's fixed and it doesn't have the side-to-side action which the IS gets. And also the seats are just not as sporty as the IS. They still have a very nice leather finish, and it's got these nice bolsters on the sides, which are electronically adjustable, believe it or not. Look at that. But it doesn't have the bolsters at the bottom, and it can be for a much larger demographic because they are really rather wide, and with different settings such as leg extenders, bolster control, of course your up, down, in and out knee support, lumbar support for the bottom, and the middle, it's a lot more adjustable for the user. Okay guys, so we've had a look at the insides and the outsides of both cars now. Let's take them for a drive and let's see which one drives better. Now, just for context, just so you know that we are actually comparing apples with apples, both of these cars are actually priced the same, even though that one there is a year older. That one there. Even though the GS is actually a year older, it's actually the same price now as the IS is, because that one there is in the mid-80s brand new. It's around 86, 87 brand new drive away, and that one there is actually around 83, 84 drive away, even though it's a year old and 15,000 Ks, because we have to remember that was over $110,000 brand new. So we're going to see which one should you buy. Okay guys, so now we are driving the IS350, and I'm not going to start the comparison to the GS until we jump in the GS, but I just want to talk about how the IS drives, how it feels on the road, how it handles, how it performs. Oh, I love this car. This is a good car. This is a good car. Okay guys, so we are driving the 2021 IS350, and this is the latest and greatest in the IS model, in an F Sport with the enhancement pack, everything on this. And I know it's a little bit unfair to compare this to a one-year-old GS, but unfortunately there is no longer a new GS350. It's just there isn't one anymore. It's over. It's an end of an era, and that is a shame, because the GS350 was just a superb car, just a superb car. And well, there isn't much to say. There isn't much to say. So we are going to be comparing this to the GS350, and even though it's a little bit of an unfair comparison, we're going to see which sedan should you buy, because both of them are saloons, both of them are rear-wheel drive saloons, both of them are Lexus rear-wheel drive saloons, and both of them are the 3.5 litre V6, which Lexus has been making for years. So it's a pretty fair comparison, and we're just going to see if you don't need to buy a car based on size, because the GS is way bigger, which sedan should you buy? Should you get a compact sedan like the IS, or should you get the grand luxury saloon like the GS? And we're going to see what makes each of them special. So I don't want to get bogged down into talking about all the safety features and all the creature features, but we will talk about the differences between the two, just the slight variations between the two, and really capture how it feels to drive. Because with the new IS350, we have a 3.5 litre V6, which produces 232 kilowatts and 380 Newton meters of torque, which is the same as the GS. However, with this new IS, they have played around with the gearbox a little bit, and that makes it a lot more fun. Now, for those of you who have watched any of my reviews on the IS350 before, you'll know how much I love this car. There's nothing like a compact sports sedan with a naturally aspirated V6 engine that can do this. That wasn't even sports mode. That was a normal mode. Oh, this is a fun car. Now, to all my international viewers, The F Sport doesn't come as standard for most of you with the Torsen rear diff. Here in Australia, if you get the F Sport, it does. So I'm a big fan of it, I have to say. Not that I've driven a 350 without it, but I can't imagine driving a 350 without it. And also, the F Sport here comes with adaptive variable suspension, which means that if I got 5 different driving modes. I've got Eco, I've got Normal, I've got Sport, I've got Sports Plus, and I've got Customize. And just to quickly touch on these, Eco is economical. It's even if I put my foot half down, it barely accelerates. If I go into Normal and I put my foot half down, a little bit better. If I go into Sports mode, I put my foot half down. That's better. Now if I go Sports Plus, what Sports Plus does, it's still in sports mode for the gearing ratios and not the ratios, but you know, when it changes gears, the engine and the throttle response. That's what sports mode does. And sports mode makes it, and you may or may not notice it in the video, is that it makes it for a harder ride, which means that if I do a sway test, it's going to be a lot harder, and I'll show you. Okay, so now we're still in sports mode without changing the suspension, and we're just going 45 k's an hour. And if I do a little bit of a sway test, just left to right, a lot of movement left and right. But mind you, it's still sports handling. It's not, I'm not going to fly out the window, not like the ES video. Oh my god. But if I go into Sports Plus mode and I'm doing the same thing, I'm still going 45 or 48 k's an hour, and I go left to right, you see how it's just that little bit tighter? And I don't know if you'll see it in the video. Hopefully you will. But it's going to be just that little bit tighter, just to make it feel a lot sportier, a lot more aggressive. So when you go and you fling it into a corner, then it's going to hold on tighter, sort of like this. I'm going into this corner way too fast. Held on nicely. But anyways, we are now at our corner where we do our 0 to 60 test, and we're in Sports Plus mode, and we're going to go foot hard down. Oh man, yeah, this thing just goes. Wow, okay, let's try again. You see, in sports mode, it just holds the gear, so even though we're at 4,000 RPM, there we go. And now, let's try manual mode. Oh, the gearing ratio. The gearing is quick. It is quick. Ah. They've finally made a proper job of this gearbox. Finally. It's finally changing gears when you tell it to. Like it's instant! Yes, Lexus, yes! Oh, and it handles perfectly. Around that corner, no loss sway. Gear down. change. And it allows you to gear down to gear 1, even at 50 k's per hour. The previous gen couldn't do that. Anyone that's driven an IS older than the new model, the first thing that they'll complain about is the gearing, because the gearing was all over the shop. It was here, it was there, it was everywhere. Oh, they've done a proper job of this. They've done a proper job of this. And now, something I really appreciate, especially in the new 2021 model, is that they've got bigger wheels. They've got 19-inch wheels as standard, which means there's a lot less roll in the car, because the previous generation to this had 18-inch wheels. And not that there was a lot of roll to begin with, but it just feels so much tighter. It feels very nimble, because obviously the wheelbase is shorter, meaning the wheels are closer to each other. So it just feels very nimble, and it feels very tight on the road. And in this new IS, they've improved the comfort of it so much. So that means even though we're driving on 19-inch wheels and it's got the F Sports tuned suspension, on a road like this, it's still smooth. It's still comfortable. It's still nice. And my only qualm is with the Lexus is, when you're in normal mode, the steering is very wishy-washy. It's sort of like, it's almost Mercedes-esque. What I mean is it's too electronic, because obviously these cars are electric power steering, like the wheels are not connected to the steering wheel whatsoever, but it just feels too much like it, too much like a Mercedes, where you just feel sort of disconnected to the car. They've improved a lot on this car, they have. Like, but then, like look at that, like, sort of like nothing, and then all of it. Turning circle's good, but just, can you notice that in the video? Now, it does improve when you're in sports mode, because the steering becomes tighter. You see there's less play in it. You don't want to have to be driving in sports mode for the steering wheel to be a little bit more direct. You know what I mean? Now, there is a runaround around this, and that's that 5th driving mode, which is customize. And essentially what you can do in customize is have like normal engine mode, but then like sports handling mode, which turns on the adaptive variable suspension, which, to be fair, I do a lot, because when you're in traffic and you're not on open roads like this, I don't want the extra power which sports mode has to offer. But what I do want is tighter handling. Just that little bit less roll. I don't know. I'm weird that way. I like it that way. What can I say? Anyways, guys, let's jump into GS now. Okay, guys, so now we are driving the Lexus GS350. Ah, what a car. What a car. Now, this is a 2020 Lexus GS350 F Sport. So, very comparable to the IS350 that we just drove. And I know that, you know, the IS350 is the newest generation, but it doesn't mean that we can't compare them and have a little bit of fun. Now, first thing I've noticed is I'm sitting really high. Like, still plenty of headspace for a taller gentleman or a lady. But I'm sitting very high up, which is a little bit annoying me, because when I'm driving a sports saloon car, or a sports car, for any sports car for that matter, I like to sit as low as possible. And the IS350, even though it doesn't get as low as some other manufacturers do, it gets pretty low, you know, so you're sort of in line with where you'd, yeah, like somewhere there is where I'd like to be. I think that's a comfortable height. But anyways, That's the first thing I've noticed. And the second thing I've noticed is how responsive the steering wheel is. I am very happy to say that the steering is, look at this, a little bit of turning and plenty of turning. Like when I turned like that same angle in the car in the IS350, I had to turn the steering wheel halfway to the moon. And mind you, we're still in normal mode. So we're comparing apples with apples here. And the other thing I've noticed is that we're now driving a luxury saloon. Yes. You're probably thinking, Serge, what's going on? IS350 is not a luxury saloon? It is. However, it's a luxury sports saloon, whereas this is a luxury saloon with a powerful engine. And it takes in the road a lot nicer. It takes in all the bumps and the feeling and the sensation of the road a little bit better. I haven't yet tested out the handling, but the performance is very much like the IS350. This is a good car. This is a good car. Now, let's talk stats and figures for a second, because it's identical to the IS. This is the same 3.5 litre V6 engine, which is in the IS350, which produces 232 kilowatts, 380 newton meters of torque. But because it is heavier, has a little bit more gear on it, and obviously a lot larger in size, 0 to 100 in this is 6 seconds, whereas in the IS it's 5.6 seconds, which is 0.4 seconds. And even though I'm not going to say it's the be all and end all, it's noticeable, obviously, but it's still an awesome car. Now, you might remember that in the IS350, I mentioned that they've changed the gearing. So even though it is the same 8-speed gearbox, in the new IS350, it's got this new transmission logic, they call, which means that the gearing was just instantaneous. And let's go into Sports Plus mode. Foot hard down. Wow. Oh damn it, I didn't put in manual mode. Wait, take two. Manual mode, go. Oh, this is awesome. Now, it changes gears quickly. You might have noticed that. Changes quickly. However, it changes a lot earlier. And the other thing I'm noticing now is I'm still in Sports Plus mode, and we're at 1200 RPM. Going 56 k's an hour. I should be at least on 2,500 RPM. Like, the throttle response was so delayed. Like, I'm in Sports Plus mode. It should be instant. I shouldn't have to wait. That's the idea of Sports Plus mode. Lexus, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. The turning circle's ridiculously good. Wow, okay. On an almost 5 meter long car, that was color me surprised. Now, I want to talk about what I've noticed in the handling. Now, let's go into normal mode. Let's do the sway test. Whoa, 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 fuck me. That was painful. Okay, let's try again in Sports Plus. And, woof, very tight. Much tighter, but still off sway. And yes, Sports Plus still gets the adaptive variable suspension, but man, it's still... Okay, let's go into this corner a little bit harder. Let's see how it handles. Same corner that we did in the IS. Okay, I don't feel confident doing it. I did not feel as confident doing that like I did in the IS. Let's try again. This corner here, same as the IS. Yeah, yeah, this is... Oh, okay. I've got it. It's holding gears now. Okay, not anymore. Okay, I've got it. This is far from a sports car. This is far from a sports car. Yes, I've said it. It's fun. It's comfortable. It's powerful. But this is not a sports car. This is... You know what this car is? This car is made for normal mode. And it's made to enjoy in normal mode. Because in normal mode, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Whereas in Sports Plus, it made 0 sense. It made 0 sense. Oh, it's a shame. This is an awesome car though. It really is. Now guys, that is a wrap on the Lexus GS350 and the Lexus IS350. Which one did you guys enjoy? Because I absolutely love both of them. Now, let's answer the question that we started off at the beginning. Which one should you buy if you're after a Lexus sedan rear-wheel drive with a very nice V6 engine in it? If you're after something nimble, something sporty, yet you can still drive every day, the IS350, because it is just such an awesome little sports car. And that's the best thing about it, is that it's easy to be sporty in it. Now on the other end, if you're after the opposite, if you're after the gentleman's cruiser or the ladies cruiser, but you're after something a little bit more refined and something a little bit more softer finish, something that you can enjoy on the longer trips as easily as you can enjoy around town, definitely the GS350, because it is just, that's what it is. It's more refined. It's soft on the road, and it can still be sporty, but as we've seen in the video, it's not as sporty as the IS is. Anyways guys, really hope you enjoyed that one. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, because we have some awesome videos coming out this year. And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.